Manchester United 0, Liverpool 3. Hello, everyone. Mark Donaldson alongside the former Liverpool defender, Stevie Nicol. And Stevie, in 2021, Liverpool won 5-0 at Old Trafford. In 2022, they beat Man United 4-0 at Anfield. Last year, Liverpool beat Manchester United 7-0. And this year, it's 3-0. How good were Liverpool today? How bad were Manchester United?
Well, I think you've got to say that from the Alexander-Arnold non-goal, it was one-sided. No surprise, United coming out the blocks, they're at home, they've got the crowd behind them, and it was a spirited start. But it disappeared from that point on that I mentioned. And it disappeared because Liverpool completely and utterly controlled the middle of the park, winning every single second ball, outpassing, outplaying, outthinking that middle of the park that United put in place. And so it was just a completely and utterly dominant performance. And quite frankly, the 3-0 scoreline doesn't really tell the story. It should have been and could have been more. You know, you can always talk about Zuxi could have had a couple, certainly should have had at least one. But at the same time, you can also say that Liverpool should have had at least two more. I mean, Szoboszlai and Mo Salah both missing from 8 yards. Mo Salah blasting one way over the crossbar, and Szoboszlai just trying to be too clever when it seemed easier just to put it in the back of the net. So every single which way you want to look at this game, it was completely and utterly dominated by Liverpool.
So as someone that played the game for as long as you did, and someone that managed in the game for as long as you did, if you're deficient in an area, and this is to do with back post defending, surely you work on it. So against Brighton, late on, they got done at the back post. Lots of options for the opposition and hardly any for Manchester United. So for the first goal, let's go to the goals in this one. For the first goal, the ball's played to the back post and it's headed it in easily. Could have been one of two Liverpool players that did so. But all the goals we're going to discuss today come from Manchester United possession and end up in Liverpool goals. This was Casemiro to begin with. There's so many ways that you can analyse this. Do you want to talk about the mistake? Do you want to talk about the back post defending?
Well, I think, listen, in terms of back post defending in general is about being aware of what's around you and then the decision that you make in order to counteract what's going on. I mean, that's what it is. You know, you can work on it all you want, but when in the middle of the battle, shall we say, you have to make decisions and you have to make them quickly. And Manchester United can't do that and haven't done it and didn't do it today. You know, you got three United defenders who just have an eye for the ball, have an eye for Mo Salah, and nobody thinks about what's going on at the back post. And so Mo Salah just sticks a little ball in there and Diaz heads it in unopposed. But I think we got to go further back. And, you know, Casemiro seems to be taking all the blame for this. Did he give a couple of balls away? Yes, he did. But he's given the balls away because nobody seemed to be free. I mean, Kobe Mainoo didn't even look interested in receiving a pass. But at the same time, Liverpool absolutely closed down that back line and that middle of the park for United very, very quickly today, particularly Gravenberg, who I don't know where this guy's come from, because last season I wondered why he was in the squad, but today and last week in particular, he was fantastic. But, you know, they closed the ball down. After that, you have to defend. You have to defend. And as I said, it's about decision-making. And in the second goal for Diaz, there are 6 Manchester United players in and around where Diaz scores. 6. You can't blame Casemiro for that. So it's not just one man's fault. Manchester United as a team, in terms of getting the ball back, were pretty poor. And in terms of keeping it, were poor as well. And Liverpool, in some ways, took advantage of it. But at the same time, they could have taken more advantage with more goals.
Well, there was more than one Manchester United fan saying that they can't wait till Manuel Ugarte is ready for action. And look, it'll help.
And again, I agree with that sentiment that he will help, but he can't do it on his own.
Exactly.
You know, and I think Ten Hag's got a problem here because Kobe Mainoo on the ball is just a delight to watch. He makes it look so easy. He sees little passes. He sees long passes. He's fantastic with the ball at his feet. But you can't get away with just being great with the ball at your feet. You have to do other things, particularly in the middle of the park. And as far as defending goes, I'm sorry. I know he's a kid. Can he learn? I don't know what when you don't have an instinct to defend. I don't know whether you can actually learn. So he's got a huge problem. It's not just Casemiro. It's Casemiro. It's Menu, and I think the other problem as well is you've got somebody like Eriksen on the bench, and you bring on a kid in front of him in a situation where you're desperate. Now, maybe desperate times need desperate measures, but yeah, in terms of United, in terms of the middle of the park, they are way, way, way below all the best teams, and certainly miles behind Liverpool.
Yeah, Toby Collier came on for Casemiro at halftime. Given what you've just said then, Stevie, do you think Menu might be a better 8 than a 6, whereby, yes, he's still got defensive duties, but he can concentrate more on being as good as he is with the ball? And if so, would that require a change of shape? Is the shape working for Ten Hag right now?
It's not a shape, it's the players. At the end of the day, it's the players. I'm talking about defenders making decisions. I'm talking about in the middle of the park, you've got to be able to defend. They don't do it. So it's not about the shape. It's about the individuals. And if you push Kobe Manu up, what do you do with Bruno Fernandes? I mean, so Ten Hag has got a lot of questions that need answering, and quite frankly, I don't think he has the squad to answer those questions. I think I just gave you the best example when you're taking Casemiro off and you're putting Collier on, and you have Eriksen there. Now, would Eriksen have done any more than Collier? No. But certainly from an experience point of view, maybe he would have held better positions. But again, when you don't have the squad and you don't have the players to fix things, then you're struggling, as United did today.
Of course, look, United's a narrative, but Liverpool won the game, right? And
Yes.
Liverpool's the biggest story here. And I want to
Yes.
talk more about them, because there was a lot of talk on ESPN FC, probably since Jurgen Klopp left. The initial talk was who's going to replace him. This is when he was still there and he announced he was going to replace. Then when we knew who was going to replace him, there was a lot of talk about Arne Slot. You can talk all you want, and you boys did on the show. But until you actually see what you're getting in Arne Slot, then you can comment on what you've seen. So what have you seen so far from Liverpool that you really like? And what have you seen that's slightly different from the way it was under Jurgen Klopp, under Arne Slot?
Well, I think no question the fullbacks are not as high. Mm-hmm. Or certainly one of them. And Andy Robertson is not as high.
No.
Under Klopp, both fullbacks were way up in the halfway line, past the halfway line. And particularly the last couple of seasons, the amount of chances that Liverpool were giving up when the ball was coughed up was just, it was a little bit outrageous. Regardless of whether it was at Anfield or away from home, Liverpool were making Alisson work too hard. And he couldn't always do it. And for me, that was one of the problems why they, from winning the Premier League going forward, why they never won it again. Because defensively, I think teams knew that they could get at them. So far, what we're seeing from this Liverpool side, with a more defensive shape when they're going forward, you got to turn around and congratulate Arne Slot, because it looks as though they're in control. That's what it looks like. When they lose the ball, they always have numbers and they look in control, and there's always somebody going and trying to win the ball back with other players covering. I mean, that's the perfect scenario. From there, again, that goes back to the decision making. Who steps up? Who drops off? Where do you take the player? So, I mean, it's just defensively, they look way stronger than they did under Klopp over the last couple of seasons. And going forward, Szoboszlai looks as though he's got a kind of a free role, where Gravenberch and McAllister are more sitting, and he's got a bit of a free role to try and get in the box and try and join in. And so you end up with with 4 going forward. You know, Diaz is the one that runs with it. Mo Salah is the one that's looking to pierce the back line if he can. You know, you got Jota looking to connect things, and then you got Szoboszlai coming on the end of stuff. So I mean, they just look like a well-drilled machine, is what they look like. Which 3 games into the season, with after coming in and after getting your players so late, I'll tell you what, he's doing something on his slot, and whatever it is, he's doing it right.
Are you excited by what you're seeing from Liverpool?
Excited is not the word, because I don't generally get too excited. To be honest with you.
I know, I'm trying to get something out of you.
I think what I feel is confidence. I feel confident that Liverpool, when they step on the field, can beat anybody. That's what I feel right now.
It's not a bad way to feel. I was commentating, Stevie, on Liverpool's first game with Arne Slot in Pittsburgh against Real Betis. And I thought it was interesting because there's obviously, he plays this formation, and we wondered, right, what's going to happen with Mohamed Salah? Now, Salah got the 3rd goal today, and we'll talk about that. And he kind of played wider, but since then he's kind of come a little bit more in, but he's been more involved, and fullbacks don't really know how to deal with him. What have you noticed? Any similarities or differences between the way he was used under Klopp? Because remember, there were times where he would switch in that 4-3-3 under Klopp, and he would be the one in the middle if maybe things weren't working out. But he's still on that right-hand side, and what a start to the season. I think that's now 10 goals in 9 games and 7 consecutive times that he's scored at Old Trafford. What about Mohamed Salah and his positioning?
Well, I don't think he's quite as high and wide as he was under Klopp, and I think that's because the fullbacks aren't as high and wide. You know, Trent's coming inside a lot more, and that means that Salah can drop and probably be more involved in the build up than he used to be. You know, he used to be either you wanted him running and behind for that long ball, or else you wanted him getting it way in the final third. Whereas now he seems to be more involved in the build up. So yeah, I don't think we'll see him too often in the middle. I don't expect that. I certainly don't want to see him in the middle. I prefer him in the wide. You know, Jota, if he stays fit, seems the perfect foil for what's around him. And of course, you've always got Núñez to bring on as well. So I don't see Mo being in that centre forward position that Klopp sometimes used him in.
The one player who did so well today, but he's done well this season, and we didn't really speak about him too much last season, is Luis Diaz. He took his goals really well. Is it because perhaps he's got Cody Gakpo behind him, and he knows if he doesn't quite reach that level, then he might be replaced by Gakpo? Or is it simply a case he's just a bloody good player?
He's pretty good. There's nothing like competition to keep players on their toes. And so, yes, that helps. But, you know, Diaz is... There's not many players around these days like Diaz. You know, he wants to run with the ball. You know, everyone's about tiki-taka and keep the ball and don't be taking people on and just make sure we keep it. That's not his game. His game is about getting after players. He doesn't mind coming in off that line and taking on players in the middle of the park, which depending on how deep he is, sometimes you're thinking, I hope we don't lose it here. But if you stop him doing that, you're taking away from his game. Defenders don't want him running at them. And as we've seen so far in this start of this season, when he's been getting opportunities, he's putting them away. So no, he's a great player. But yeah, it's always good for a coach when you got 2 players vying for one spot and it keeps the man in possession on his toes. That's big time.
And let's end with Manchester United, because they've got exactly what they want now. They've got 2 weeks to prepare for the next game. The only problem is a lot of the players will be away on international duty. And when you consider the 3 Liverpool goals today all started with Manchester United possession. Casemiro didn't have a good game. We know that. Stevie's identified that, but it's not all about him. You've got a defence now that might take time to bed in. Matthijs de Ligt came in for his first start. You've got Mazraoui, who came in at the start of the season. You've got Lisandro Martinez, and you've got Diogo Dalot as well. So going forward, what is the one thing right now that you would suggest that Erik ten Hag needs to work on with his players when he gets them all back from international duty, more than anything else, Stevie?
I think the biggest thing for United is to stop not just the good sides like Liverpool and City and Arsenal, but anybody, because right now anybody in the Premier League can get at United's back four. And I'm not saying United back four is terrible. I'm just saying that when you're put under so much pressure so often, you're going to break. And so you have to limit the amount of time that the opposition gets at your back four.